Hmm. Should we start? Should we start?
Yes,
Should we
sure.
start? Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to episode 4 of Brainfreeze.
Brainfreeze, yeah.
Not a good start as it is. Okay, so today we're here with a very special guest. We're here with Salman. आप already पता है कि मैं कौन हूँ, so Salman आप अपनी brief सी introduction दे दें for our audience.
Okay, so I'm Salman. The name is already open to you, and I'm working here at Emumba as a lead software engineer right now. So I joined Emumba back in 2018. I graduated in 2017 and did my bachelor's in software engineering from UET Texla. And yeah, so I started with the front end, and right now I'm doing the back end.
All right, we're already diving into technical jargon over here. You mentioned you graduated in 2018. So
2017, sorry.
20.
And joined Emumba at 2018.
All right, 2017. So that's 6 years ago.
Yeah.
6 years back. Let's talk a little bit about that. When you graduated, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? I know when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So how did you decide that this is the way you wanted to move forward?
Luckily, yes. So even before graduating, I started my career. So back in 2015, I heard about web development. So I did a short course, and that landed me to an internship. And based on internship, I got a part-time job offer from there. So I'm actually into that field from before even graduating. So I did freelance. I already have a job offers before graduation. So yeah, pretty much clear to me.
That's really rare because मैंने इतना ज़्यादा नहीं देखा. मतलब I know कि especially जब मैं student थी तो इस चीज़ के ऊपर तो बिल्कुल भी focus नहीं था कि start looking for what you're going to do before you graduate, things like this. And आप तो mention करें कि you already had this in mind. लेकिन if we take a step back, as a student in the Pakistani market, in a Pakistani university, where should you start out? How do you know where you want to go forward?
Right. So unfortunately, there's a gap between our traditional studies and the practical work that we do every day. So I've heard about the projects at that moment, the projects that were out there. So that actually gives me more interest into those areas, and especially the web development. So I picked a web development that time, and obviously there were no course that was offered there in the university. So I have to do my own research for that, and luckily I found some institute that was offering that short courses. So I think for a student, you have to start your own. Don't just rely on the university to teach you everything. And if you want to be ahead of time, you have to start as early as possible.
I think this is very underrated. Starting early, यहाँ पे इस चीज़ का concept बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. मतलब आप students आ जाते हैं job market के अंदर और फिर कहते हैं कि अब हमें job मिल ही नहीं रही. तो how do you know where you want to start out? मतलब yes, you should start early. आपको courses करने चाहिए, लेकिन कौन से courses करने चाहिए? कैसे पता चलेगा कि क्या होना चाहिए?
So yeah, I think that's a very good question, because in software you have variety of verticals, and it's pretty hard to choose one that is suitable for you. So that's why I actually divide a software field into 3 stages or 3 phases. The first one would be experiment, and then excel, and then be a champion in that field. So the experimental phase that I was talking about, that was during my graduation. I started exploring different things, and during the freelance, I explored multiple areas, not just web development. So, and in the end, I was pretty sure that this is the one that I have to go with. So it's up to you that when you start your experimental phase, and I would recommend that as early as possible for you, you should start that. Otherwise, when you graduate, then you have to start experimenting different things, and you are already late in that perspective.
I think
yeah.
the experimental phase is very tough because you're scared. What if something doesn't work out? What if what you're doing, will it be good for you or not? Matlab, for the tech side, I think it's different because you have so many options. But even on the HR side, आपने marketing की तरफ जाना है, HR side जाना है, business, finance, there's so many options. So how do you get over that fear of experimentation and trying out new things?
I think as early as you start, you should know that you have enough time that before going into the market. So that's why I encourage students to start as early as in their graduation period, because that will give you confidence that even that gets failed, I have enough time to like cope up with the new technology. So that's up to the time that someone said that life is a race, and I totally agree to it. But in that race, you are alone, so you're always winning in that race. So I think the early you start, the early you have those things in your mind.
That's very valid. We really need to put more emphasis on trying out new things. For some reason, we see failure as something bad, but I don't think failure is something bad. It means that you're breaking your own comfort zone and you're trying out new things. As a student, all right, now you've looked around a little bit, and it's time to choose a company to work at. So I remember when I was graduating, I thought I'm gonna go work at Google or Amazon or some company like
Everyone
that.
thinks of that.
So, but at some point we start thinking a little, maybe something that's not really immediately achievable. So yes, this is a good long-term goal, but how would you choose a company? How do you go about finding the right fit for you?
I think that's the most underrated question. Like every student like think of like this. In the desperation, they want to just get into a job without considering the job role or the company's culture heavily. So I see folks like they have no clue about that. So they just want to be in the market, whatever the job role is there. So and I think the most important part during the recruitment process, when the HR said, "Do you have any questions?" And people just missed out that opportunity in the first phase, that you should ask the company that what else they are offering apart from the job role, and what will be my career path in that company, because that will tell them that how far that I can go with this company. So company's culture or company's different roles actually tells about your career path a lot.
That's really valid. I remember when I was interviewing over here at Emumba, this was something that I definitely did ask, because if you aren't thinking about your career, who is? Who's going to? So, what was going through your mind when you applied here at Emumba? Let's take a step back into history.
Okay, so I just landed at Emumba by chance, right? To be very honest, but also I think I'm like staying with Emumba based on its culture. So it's I do have I do have a challenging task. I have my next target, like based on roles, responsibilities. Every time I have new things in my bucket list, so that keeps me going. Like, so, yeah.
Right. This is something that's important to consider, organizational culture and that aspect on one side. But Emumba does have a lot of different verticals or departments. You have front end, obviously, which you joined in with, back end, DevOps, QA, and so on and so forth. Once you've come into a company, and this is something that I think people are very scared of, that if they commit to a role, they won't be able to do anything else. So once you join a company, what do you do next? Especially if you find out that perhaps you want to try something else, or you want to try out maybe a different vertical or a different tech stack?
So I think that's up to the company as well, because like Emumba offers different verticals, so you have a best case scenario over here. You can switch to the verticals if you want to, but that is not the case with everyone, right? So you have to like when you get into the company, you have to set targets for yourself. For example, if you've been hired like as a junior developer, you should see that what it gets me to, like how to the senior level or to the lead level, if there are any positions there. And if you think you're stuck somewhere, I think move on from that company, so you don't have any future with that.
This is something that perhaps you should consider when you're joining a company. Perhaps once we graduate, वो एक इतनी भागदौड़ होती है कि बस कहीं पे नौकरी लग जाए तो ये इस चीज़ को consider नहीं करते. लेकिन if you think about it, the first company will shape the way your career moves forward.
It actually has a lot of impact on your future goals, future career, I would say.
Right. So say you join a company and you're, for example, you join front end. Do you think that this is something limiting? This was a big fear of mine when I joined. I didn't want to be limited in one specific position or one specific role, but I found that there was an entire career roadmap and I could try out different things. So does that exist on your side as well? How do you move forward if you want to do something new?
Yeah, I think the thing you have chosen for yourself, be excellent in that. Like at some moment that you think that it's enough for me. Like for myself, I did front end for 4 years, And then I've switched to the back end. So it's not like I'm doing front end right now and after a month I'll switch to another thing. So that's not gonna work actually. So that experience won't count in your CV as well. So if you have picked one thing, make yourself a champion of it and then move out to another part.
Um, so
Yeah, and if you don't like it, I think switching early is also a good option.
Well, I think we've come on to two different parts, but when you're talking about switching, perhaps this is where I should ask, what about the resume? So I know as a recruiter, one big issue that I come across is maybe people have worked in so many different places or done so many things and they add everything onto the resume. And not necessarily just for experienced candidates or experienced people, but even just for students. अब किसी सोसाइटी के अंदर प्रेसिडेंट हैं वो भी लिख देंगे अगर कहीं पे कोई volunteer. So what should you actually be adding? What do you think is relevant?
The most recent experience, right? And the job you're applying for. For example, if I'm applying for the Python role or in the backend side, so it should be prominent there. And apart from that, everything doesn't matter at all. And being an interviewer, and I would just ask questions from the job role according to the job role or recent experience from there. So everything else is just a garbage on that CV.
Right. As an interviewer, have you come across any situations like that where perhaps you've asked a candidate about an experience and they had no idea on what to say?
Right, exactly. I think number of times, like they have mentioned front end, back end, and everything, but they don't have expertise in particular things. So that's a negative point. They are adding it there to resume.
Absolutely. The interview process or just the way you portray yourself, it matters quite a lot. This brings me back to something you mentioned, which is you were working in front end for 4 years before you started going for back end. So do you think there's a time frame of learning things, learning new things, or why 4 years? Why not less time, or why not more time than that?
I think the short answer to this is that is like if you are being challenged or motivated, stick to it. And the longer you stay in something, I think the more you gain expertise in that area. And that will actually count in your CV or resume. So I think obviously the rolling stone gathered no moss, so that actually applies to this area as well. And don't just switch too often because otherwise you will be like doing hello world in different languages and you'll be saying that I know this, and actually you don't know anything.
Absolutely. Deep diving is very important, and I think perhaps everyone wants to fill their resume, so they work on so many different stacks, but then in the end, when it comes to showing your actual expertise, you sort of fall short. And this reminds me that especially in today's market, I come across a lot of candidates that say that they're full stack, or perhaps you too are a full stack engineer now. So what does that encompass? As a full stack, does that mean that now you're equally proficient on front end and back end, or does it mean that you have more expertise on one side? Because whenever I ask a candidate if they're a full stack, they say we're a full stack, but then when you actually ask them, they say no, we actually like front end more or back end more.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer, front end more or back end more, because in reality you can't be expert in everything. In my case, I did front end for 4 years, so I can say that I have more expertise in that area. And right now I'm doing back end from 1 year, so in future I would say that I will be more having more expertise on the back end side. So my expertise will switch from one domain to another, but at least I'll be an expert in one area. So, and apart from that, everything I have, it's just a shallow knowledge. So I can maintain expertise in everything. Can you confirm?
There's some issue with the audio. Okay, it started working again. All right. I'm not sure where it cut off, but let's hope it wasn't too much. So, you mentioned that from front end you went to back end, but I'm sure you had other options as well. You could have gone towards the DevOps side as well. Maybe you could have gone towards a different vertical as well. So, how do you know which side you want to go to, or what sort of things you'd like to learn? Does this just depend on your interest, or does it depend on the work or the project that you're doing?
So yeah, okay. So for me, I think I want to stick with the development side of things. So that's why I have chosen the back end side, and also that depends on your career goal as well. So I want to be an software architect. So in that position, I want to design solutions, and just be on the front end side or the back end side. I think I won't be able to design the complete solution all in all. So. That's why I have chosen the back end, so I have enough knowledge to create a whole application or design a whole application.
Right. Okay, we're taking a bit of a break. There's some issue with our audio. Is this good? Is it good? All right. Apologies, there was another issue. The battery of our mic sort of failed. All right. So let's continue with the full stack conversation that we were having. Don't you think it's a little bit difficult staying up to date with so many different technologies? It's difficult staying up to date with technology for one vertical, but what about two? So front end, back end, both. There's so many new technologies coming all the time. How can you ensure that you're always relevant with the current trends?
Right. So I think software industry is something that it's keep on changing every day. So it's really hard to cope up with everything at once. So, and honestly speaking, if you are not open to learning, don't come into this field. So, period. And like in other fields, like if someone is working in one particular domain for years, we call them specialists. But if someone in the software industry is doing something, one thing for years, we call them outdated. So that's a difference between other fields in the software industry. So I think you have to keep on learning, but I think you have to. You just don't have to be expert for everything. You need to gain horizontal knowledge so you can design more solutions. For example, if I say I know A, B, C, so I'll be creating sentence from these three alphabets. But if I know the remaining alphabets, I'll be creating a more appropriate sentences. And similar case with the solutions. So I have to gain enough knowledge, horizontal knowledge, from different domains and stay up to date for that, because that will help me to design more appropriate solutions.
Right, horizontal knowledge is very important, and though this is a bit of a tangent, I think we've been talking a lot about technical skills, but there's also a really good question over here which is regarding extracurriculars. Don't you think that extracurricular activities give you a chance to learn more about soft skills? So we've talked about technical skills. What about soft skills? I think that those are extremely important, but I don't really see people giving them a lot of value.
Yeah, it will it is very important, especially when you start exploring other areas, for example, a lead position. So it's very important to have those skills as well. You are leading a team, you are interacting with the customer, so that helps you a lot with the career. Because being a technical guy, you will stick to the development, and if you want to explore more and want to get promoted, so I think it's a very important aspect to your career as well. So yeah. Extracurricular activities like this one is very important, and I'll be having my YouTube channel after this.
Right, this is very true. One of the ways you can work on your soft skills that we have over here is Toastmasters, but even in general, especially for graduating students, I see they don't give a lot of value on soft skills at all, communication, things like this. And we have been in situations where we have extremely technically capable candidates, but we just don't move forward with them, because if you can't communicate even the most basic of things, how are you going to move forward in a competitive field like this?
Right, in the current industry, I think like the services-based company actually, we want more leaders in the team, right? Emumba is looking for leaders, so future leaders. So that's communication part is very, very important. So those people are going to represent Emumba in front of customers. So that's actually very important.
Absolutely. So perhaps if we can summarize this entire conversation, and if we can ask you about your current role, what does that encompass? What do you have planned for yourself, or like just what do you think about it in general?
So yeah, being in a lead position, I think the most important part is I just mentioned that it's a customer interaction part. So you are meeting the customer expectations, gaining their trust, and in the end, like that will actually translate to the business as well. So you are here to grow the business, and being in a lead position, that helps me like to generate a business for the company. And the second part is like being a leader, you have to produce leaders. So that actually motivates you as well, that how many leaders you have produced within your team, like how many leaders you have mentored.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it ties back to the sort of legacy you want to leave behind, or the sort of things that you're considering. You should have an idea of your career when you're starting out, or at least you should have a vague idea of what you want to do, and then build up on that.
Yeah.
Because if after 3 years, 5 years, I think I've even come across candidates who after 15 years are doing the same thing in the same position. So that's not some place you want to be. All right, with that, I think that we have come to the end of our podcast. And thank you so much, Salman, for joining us.
Thank you. I'll be waiting for my check.
All right, apologies to everyone in the audience for that short lapse when the audio. We really hope that you didn't miss out on anything too important. And we'll be seeing you again next month with another guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions? Okay. So we have one more technical question. What are the current and future trends in the IT industry? Okay, I think we did mention that how you can stay up to date with the trends, but is there anything in particular that you want to mention?
So just start exploring things around your domain. For example, in my backend, I want to stay up to date that there are a bunch of things available online. So, and like newsletters and everything. So I keep myself updated according to my domain. So if you're doing front end, there are a lot of things available online, so you can keep yourself updated.
Absolutely, and I think that there's so many ways. Even if you don't want to specifically use LinkedIn, maybe I think hum sare thak jate LinkedIn se at one point, but there are lots of other forums online jinko aap follow kar sakte hain. You can stay up to date to things that are going on. So, all right, that covers all of our queries as well. You can absolutely leave more questions if you'd like, and we'll try our best to answer them in the future at some point. But with that, now officially we will inshallah see you next month with another episode.